This cushion is going to have a zipper inserted into one of the side seams. I can put the zipper across the top of the cushion, or if I want to, I can put the zipper down the side of the cushion. It doesn't matter which seam it goes into, so long as the zipper is actually shorter than the piece of fabric. I need a little bit of space here at the sides to join the two fabrics together. Before I begin doing anything, I have to address the fact that this fabric is fraying. It's going to continue to fray unless I do something to stop it. So I'm going to actually zigzag stitch all the way around the four sides. I need to go across the top and down the two short sides of the front, and I also need to do exactly the same to the back, because you can see that the back is fraying just as much as the front is. I need to set my machine up for a zigzag stitch. At the moment, my width is just over 3 and my length is just under 3. I'm going to leave the length where it is, but I'm going to increase the width. I'm going to take it out to be about 5 millimeters wide. So I use the increase button on my stitch width and I just push it until it goes out to 5 millimeters. To sew a zigzag stitch, I use presser foot number 1, which is the general purpose presser foot. I've threaded up my machine in a similar colour to my fabrics. Starting with the back, it doesn't matter which one, insert the piece of fabric under the presser foot and lower the presser foot to hold it in place. Then take hold of just the top thread and gently lower in the needle. You'll see that I'm trying to guide it so that I'm sewing right on the edge of my fabric, not half a centimetre inside, but right on the edge. Once you've done 1 or 2 stitches, you can continue using your foot pedal. You'll also notice that I didn't start at the corner, I actually started halfway down one of the sides. You'll find this is a lot easier. When you get to the other corner, you need to pivot your machine. So stop on the corner with the needle down, raise the presser foot, pivot your fabric 90 degrees so that you've turned the corner, lower your presser foot again and continue stitching. You're going to continue like this around all 4 sides of your fabric. Eventually you'll get back to where you started. You don't need to backstitch, just remove the fabric and trim off your threads. You're now going to repeat the process on the other piece of fabric, doing a zigzag stitch around all 4 sides. Now that you've neatened off the edges, it's time to line up your front and your back, and we're going to start getting that zipper in position. Put your fabric so that the 2 right sides are together, or the good sides are touching each other, and lining up your raw edges. You're going to position your zipper looking at the metal stoppers at each end of the zipper. These are like the start and the finish. You need to mark this position on your fabric. The easiest way to do this is just to put a pin in the left and the right, into the fabric but not into the zipper. It's just to do a marking. So when you've got your pins ready, line up your zipper and put a pin in where one of the metal markers is. Then smooth out your zipper, look where your other metal marker is, and using another pin, pin your fabric together. We're not pinning the zipper. You can see that I've just removed the zipper. We're just using the pins to make a marking. The key to putting in a zipper is to have fabric that can fold down like this to actually stitch the zipper to. So it's important that when we do our sewing, we come down 1.5 centimetres. If you don't know 1.5 centimetres by sight, use a ruler and come down to the 1.5 or the 15 millimetre line and put a pin as a marker. Move your ruler along and do exactly the same at the other end. This gives you a really good guide to what 1.5 centimetres looks like. So that's how far down we need to come. Now the key with a zipper is you're actually going to sew the two little ends, not the big piece in the middle. So using a chalk pencil, you can actually rule a line from your pin marker to the very, very outside edge. This is where we're going to sew. We're not sewing in the middle, we're sewing on the outsides. Back to the machine, and you have to reset the machine for a straight stitch this time. Starting a little bit away from the edge, do a few back stitches right to the very edge, then come forward to where your pin marker is. Remove the pin before you get there, get level with the pin, and then go into reverse again and do a few more back stitches. Lift your presser foot and remove your fabric and trim off your threads. You repeat the exact same process down the other end. So again, starting a little bit away from where you want to finish, remove your pin once the needle is down, that way you know your fabrics won't move. Put your machine into reverse and go all the way back to where your chalk line started. Then continue right down to the very, very edge of your fabric, and once again go into reverse and do a few back stitches. Remove your fabric and trim off your threads. You can see that I've just done a small amount of stitching. And if I fold down my seam allowance, I've actually now got plenty of fabric to attach my zipper to. Go to the iron and press the seam allowance open. Also, trim off any threads that you might have left where you've done your stitching, because these are just going to get in the way later on. You want to make it all nice and neat, pressing it open, and then turn your fabric over so that you're looking at the right sides. It's now time to position the zipper inside the gap that you've just created. Close up the zipper and slip it inside the gap, holding onto the little toggle and pushing it as far up as you possibly can, getting it really close to where you've just stitched. You're now going to pin across the top, so make sure that you go through all of your fabric layers, including the zipper tape underneath, and pin it nice and securely. Fold it back and double check that you've actually got both pieces of the zipper tape pinned and you haven't accidentally just got one and not the other. Now we're going to pin the zipper into the cushion. Lining up the fold of the fabric so that it is in the middle of the zipper teeth, pin through all layers of fabric and the zipper tape. You want to do this to both sides. So you can see that I've done it to the red, which is the good side of my front, and now I'm doing it to the grey, which is the good side of my back. Keeping the zipper centered the whole time, continue pinning down the folds of fabric. Make sure you go all the way to the bottom, and also make sure that it always lines up in the middle, just like this is done. You shouldn't be able to see any of the zipper teeth if it's pinned together properly. Once you finish pinning, open up your zipper just to make sure that the fabric doesn't catch anywhere and that the zipper is completely pinned in position. Now that the zipper is pinned, we're going to sew down the sides, along the top and the bottom, to make a long skinny rectangle of stitching. We need to baste our zipper in position. This is a form of hand stitching which is quick and easy, and it allows us to remove the pins. Using whatever colour thread you like, thread up a needle, but don't tie a knot in the end. We're going to do a running stitch. Make sure you go through all layers of fabric and the zipper tape as well. Leave the pins in place, but once you've sewn past a pin, it's okay to remove it. The idea is to baste all the way around, paying particular attention across the short ends. Always check underneath to make sure that your basting actually went through the zipper tape and you didn't miss it somehow. Once you've stitched across each side, you come down the other side and along the bottom. Keep going until you get back to where you started from, and then just cut your threads off. Don't worry about tying any knots, because we're actually going to just rip this out after we've machined it in place. Double check that everything is stitched down and that you haven't left any pins in. Now it's back to the sewing machine to finish it off. We're going to do some straight stitching down each side on top of the basting. You must use zipper foot number 4 when sewing in a zipper. It's a narrow little foot, and you can see it's got a groove on the right hand side and on the left hand side. Remove your general purpose foot number 1 and insert zipper foot number 4. The biggest difference you'll notice is that when you move the needle down slowly, it's going to hit the presser foot. There's no hole for the needle to pass into. So you have to actually move the needle across to the right or across to the left. It doesn't matter whether it goes left or right, that's a case of personal preference. It will determine how you put the fabric and the zipper under the presser foot, but we'll get to that in a moment. The number one mistake people make is that they forget to adjust the needle. So always remember to adjust your machine before you begin sewing, checking that your needles are threaded and that the needles are in the right position for that presser foot. Put the fabric under the presser foot. You can see in this case I'm putting the zipper on the left. So if you look where the grey and the red fabric meet, that's where my zipper is, and it's to the left of the presser foot. Therefore, I need to move my needle to the left. If I wanted to sew the other way, I can. This case, the fabric is on the right, and so therefore the needle needs to move to the right. You'll have a personal preference. Mine is actually to go the other way, to sew like this on the left. So I'm going to move it back again just to show you what to do. The idea is that the skinny little zipper foot runs down the side of the zipper. It never actually goes across the top of the zipper. That's why you can see my zipper is on the left, the presser foot, if you like, is on the right, and the needle is running through the middle of the two. Make sure you set up for a straight stitch, and we're just going to do a few little back stitches, and then we're going to come straight down the side of the zipper. The idea is use the basting stitches as a guide, but it doesn't matter whether you sew over the top of them or not. You want to sew all the way down until you get to the toggle. You have to remove the toggle, otherwise you'll end up sewing a bit of a curve. So leave your needle down, slide your toggle out of the way, and then put your presser foot back down and continue around your zipper. Check underneath just to make sure how far the zipper comes. Get all the way down to the bottom and then pivot at the corner. Remember, keeping your needle down, raising your presser foot, turning your fabric 90 degrees, lowering your presser foot again, and doing a few more stitches. When you get to the next corner, same process. Needle down, presser foot up, pivot, and back you come. The idea is to be even on both sides. So try your best. When you get to the toggle at the other end, you just want to slide it out of the way again. The idea now is to get back to where you started and to do a few little back stitches when you get there to make sure that everything is nice and secure. Once you have removed your fabric from the machine, trim off your threads and check underneath and trim off your bobbin threads as well. And then you can actually cut out or pull out your basting stitches. Your zipper is now attached, and if you open it up, just have a quick check inside to make sure that your machine stitching did catch the zipper tape underneath and that all of your basting stitches have actually been removed. Your zipper should open and close freely now. The front and the back of your cushion are now joined where the zipper is. So fold your fabrics over and line up the other three sides. You may find that they don't match perfectly, but that's okay, we can easily adjust that. Starting at the zipper end, because that's the one which is already fixed in place, look where your two fabrics meet and squeeze the fabric in half so that you can actually push them together right on that seam line, and then hold that in position with a pin. You're going to do this on the other side as well. That gives you your starting point, and now you just line up the raw edges so that they meet, and you pin your front and your back together. You're going to sew 1.5 centimeters away from this raw edge. So it's a good idea to place your pins 1.5 centimeters away from the edge. That way they form a nice line for you to follow. Continue going all the way along, matching up your raw edges to the front and the back and pinning 1.5 centimeters away from the raw edge. You want to continue this all the way along that first side. I've flipped it over now and I'm starting to pin from the other edge. Following exactly the same process, I'm going to start at 1.5 centimeters away from the edge and continue pinning. I've deliberately left in this video a bit of an error that has occurred at this corner, which I'm going to show you now. It doesn't quite match up. It looks like the grey piece is a bit too big. If that happens to you, just take out a few pins and smooth it out again and then re-pin in position. You might find that the raw edges don't match up perfectly, but they should still be close enough for a cushion like this. It's very important that the fabric is flat and smooth when you join it together and it doesn't have bumps and creases. Now that it's all pinned together, we have to stitch it on the sewing machine. Using a straight stitch, we're going to stitch the three sides together, remembering to pivot at the corners and to stay 1.5 centimeters away from the raw edge. You want to stitch the three sides, remembering of course to back stitch at the start and at the finish. Open up your zipper and then you can turn your cushion cover the right way out. But before you do that, we just want to neaten it up on the inside. Using some scissors, cut off the threads from your straight stitching, and we also want to trim off that excess fabric that's in the corner. Do not cut through the straight stitching, but at 45 degrees, snip off that bit of extra fabric. To demonstrate the next corner, I'm actually going to draw it with a chalk pencil. I'm drawing in where the stitching actually is because it's a little hard to see in this video. And then I'm going to draw in a line at about 45 degrees, and that's where you're going to cut. You don't cut through the stitching, but you're cutting out that corner of fabric, which would bulk up that corner when you were to turn it inside out. Repeat this process for all of the corners. Be careful when you're doing the two zipper corners to make sure that you're only cutting off zipper tape and not actual zipper. Once you've turned your cushion the right way out, poke a pencil or some other blunt object into the corners to poke the fabric out. You want to make a nice 90-degree angle so that the corners look crisp and sharp. By cutting out that fabric, you'll also notice that it's nice and thin now, not thick and rounded. Open up your zipper just to double check that everything looks neat on the inside and that there aren't any threads catching. And there it is, all finished.